96 degrees Fahrenheit. We're at 214,363 miles on the odometer. June 4th, 2024. Got a lot done today. So last night was very difficult. It was 8 vlogs, ranging between 20-something minutes to 9 minutes. When you do that and you're kind of stacking them up, don't try to do them all like 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and at least you've got super internet, maybe 40 minutes or 45 minutes. You might want to shoot for 20 minutes. My mom thinks 15. So my mom's like, keep it 15. So my rule is keep it about 15 minutes or 20. Okay, why? Well, because you're working with this. That's an iPhone 11. So if I get my MacBook Pro, I'm probably going to switch over to features. That means it'll be a script. There'll be actors called from backstage. That's a thing online that you can go. It's an app. You can use a credit card. You can do auditions. You know, you can get funding, all kinds of stuff. It's the best thing ever. Listen, every movie star knows about it and has used it. Every one of them. I don't know about Brando, but a lot of them have. They do it now. Everyone uses it backstage. I've used it. They're great. Internet Movie Database is good for information. YouTube is good for fun. It's good for information. It's content. Coming up on a butterfly. So I am shooting for 1 vlog a day, 15 to 20 minutes, because I'm currently working on a play. The play is called UHM, also known as I'm making it look like parentheses. No, I'm sorry, quotes. Hang on, give me a second. It's a butterfly. So has parentheses, has quotes, just like you would see it in a book or story or play. Well, plays don't have quotes a lot of times. Sometimes they do. Yeah, they do sometimes, but it has quotes. So UHM is like a non-verbal. So if the actor says, well, if a friend goes to the actor and says, well, are you in a play? And they're like, that's the play they're in. Okay. It's about a character named Ash, who's a writer, and Snickles, who's an alcoholic that coughs more. They both cough throughout the play. One coughs a little bit, Snickles coughs a little bit more. The coughs are they're specified. The coughs are placed within the play, meaning you'll hear them. You'll hear when the cough happens. There's jet noise in it. There's a sound of jet noise, and that's placed within the play randomly. I did it. So when I type it, I'm maybe more strategic on the jet noise. It's overhead, so the jet noise is overhead. Now listen, the jet noise is because it's written about an apartment complex called Townhouse West. It was once called Park Vista, and when I lived there a long time ago, it was all La Plaza townhomes. I did a feature in there called Bulb. It's the borderline documentary. Some argue that it's a narrative. It's both documentary and narrative, with what Coppola was talking about in some of his interviews, mixing documentary with narrative. So I gave it a try, and that's with Bulb. That was filmed at the La Plaza townhomes, now Townhouse West. So I wrote at Townhouse West just within the last year, between 2023, and I did a scene last night. So I'm still writing it like longhand on June 4th of 2024. So it's been a while. I probably started it in the summer of 2023. So about a year, off and on. Recording dialogues, getting ideas. So I'm also reading Sam Shepard. One of my favorites is 1400,000. It's a 1-act play. I love True West too. I love True West. But I'm reading 1400,000, and I'm also reading some of his older books, you know, like 7 plays and things like that. I'll be digging around. This summer, we're going to write a play, okay? And then we're going to send it out to probably New York and some friends. First one, 5:15, 13, 7.3. So the any theory, which is the non-existence theory, it is a theory that I've come across when I went to Austin. I went to a bookstore, kind of by a Whole Foods. I think it was a Whole Foods, but there was a bookstore there. They had a Stephen Hawking's book, and I picked it up, started glimpsing through it and reading about bubbles in the universe and planes in the universe that split time and space and all this stuff, the theory of everything and all the stuff that he went through, because he was very broad. Well, energy equals mc squared is kind of a theory, it's kind of a guess. So it's talking about energy and mass and the speed of mass equaling energy. There's a difference between mass and the speed of light squared. And basically, there were separate ideas and energy. Energy is one idea, mass is another idea. Then there's speed, the speed of mass. So, the speed of light, I guess you could say. Speed of light emits energy. So I started thinking, and so if we have existence, which is basically what you could call mass, then we may have something the opposite of that, which we can't really think about because it wouldn't be there to think about. So it's something waiting to arrive. You think of the shadow before the light. I also call it the shadow before the light theory. That means that you have something called dark matter. So Ne equals dm cubed times the speed of light squared, which is c squared. So you have a standard speed of light, a standard speed that equals light. It has to go a certain speed, and then it creates energy, and it basically is light. Okay. Dark matter is its own thing, and it's supposed to be, I think, more. There's more of it. There's like a certain percentage. Some people say 26%, some people say more. Some people say that we're only the 5% of all the other subatomical particles that are out there floating around. We're only like 5%. There's so much more, just like we don't use a lot of our brain. Okay, so what it is any is saying that there is non-existence. Now, a lot of people will argue, especially like Nietzsche and stuff like that. They'll say, yeah, there's non-existence, or people say things don't exist. But it really doesn't make a lot of sense in science. Just like time doesn't make sense, you know. Time doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but we measure it. So in order to understand Einstein's theory, energy equals mc squared, you have to understand that there is a way that we stretch out to think of time, meaning we actively try to trace time, even though it can't really be proven. And that's part of that theory, because the speed of light squared, speed and time are separate, but you can still measure it, or we try to. We have a standard measurement for light. So I'm saying we have a standard measurement of light. So there's something surrounding that that's quicker, and that would be dark matter. So what I'm saying is dark matter has a speed and can possibly be measured. Between the two can be storage. There's a gap. So I'm saying there's a difference between light and dark matter. Some people will say that because they say dark matter cannot reflect light. So they're separate things. Ne equals dm cubed times c squared. And that would be the non-existence theory. The relative aspect of that, or the reason why, the motive for it, the intention, is a storage of all matter. To be able to store matter. And they're like, well, why would we want to store matter? Because we might want to break things down and then reassemble. We can do that with computers already. We can do that with thought. So this was probably something that Einstein probably thought about. Stephen Hawking's 100%, the storage of matter. We would need to do that, especially if we were traveling in long distances in space, right? We would have to store matter, store things that cannot be corrupt. Now, here's another thought on top of it. It would be to assimilate, the opposite of assimilate. So to break down matter and to store it, and then to be able to reassemble it as its original state, right? Think of Star Trek, whenever, you know, they have the little, you know, beam me up Scotty kind of thing. Very much in that realm. So we're talking more storage of matter rather than just energy. Hence non-existence, which is Ne. Now, if you're following my Ne theory, you would think, okay, so dark matter is quicker. That means light slows down to become light from dark matter, from the perspective of dark matter. Basically, it's saying dark matter is faster than light, and can absorb. It can kind of absorb it when they say that they can't see it. There's different theories about dark matter that I need to read. Now we know that when we take particles, subatomic particles, and we spin them around and we smash them together, then what happens? It creates an immense amount of energy. Now, when we start working with dark matter and we do the same between light and dark matter, we're going to open a space. We're going to tear a space open, basically, in the existence. You can't do that without non-existence, if you know what I mean. So let's talk about David Lynch. So David Lynch writes these kind of really cool, hip, very planned out and orchestrated, manipulated, methodic, dark, surreal films. Well, they're movies, but they're films, like Eraserhead all the way to Mulholland Drive to Inland Empire. And he has talked about meditation. I'm about to visit a lady that meditates, and in this meditation that he does, I think he does it a few times a day. I don't know his method or strategies, but he does do it. He talks about an unlimited space, a well of creativity that he can exist in or fall into. It's almost like bliss, and he can basically grab all this information. He calls it fish, or he calls it ideas. That's a representation of basically it's connected to this idea of non-existence, okay, that can be accessed. And so how do we access it? Well, we have to we have to tear through our existence, and thus we start to see a glimpse of non-existence. And that's what I'm talking about in the theory in layman's term. Now that's very layman's term. That's just basically just talking about it. So how would Einstein have talked about subatomic particles? Well, he did that by talking about mass having speed and then squared. Squared is the genius of E equals mc squared. When you get to square, that's when they got his attention. So when I say dark matter cubed, I'm talking about possible 3-dimension, right? While light is squared because it's going double its speed, right? Cubed is a different speed and dark matter. It's enveloping light. It's always there, and there's space between it. I'm interested in that space between the dark matter and the light and its relative speed. And that varies. That's why light has different color. We'll talk about it later as I develop it, but these are just ideas being thrown out about the NE theory, which has a theorem. It has a theorem. And I made a mistake when I met this lady. She does what's called astral projection, but there is probably astro projection, and that's where we can get from one point of space to another point of space almost instantaneously. That means space travel would speed up very, very quickly. We'd be able to get to the moon like that, or we'd be able to get to Mars like that very quickly, eventually. 6:35, 1.9. So the time travel theory, you know, of course, it gets laughed at, and Back to the Future and Michael J. Fox, and hey, you got me on this one, Doc. What's going on? But what it would look like in the future probably is it would be just like a box or something that's big that can generate the dark mass to envelope the light and create this tear. And what we would say time and space, but the ones that would want to hear, you know, they just want to hear a tear in space, a tear in existence. It's better to say existence rather than space for the layman terms, because they'll think of the universe. I'm talking about the first time that this will happen. And the apple will be videotaped. The whole world would be watching, probably live stream. And the apple would just vanish for a second, and then it would reappear. And that would be the first time we would have probably time travel, or what we could just say Astro Projection, where we can appear or we can disappear in one spot in time and space and then reappear in another spot. Time is good because time, we measure time, right? So we'd be able to measure it. So we can say time and space. So we can say time travel. Because really all of this is time travel, because time is always being measured by us. We're tracing time, as David Bowie says. But David Bowie also says that we can't trace time and changes. So that's kind of what it would be. And we would see it happen. Some would believe in it and some wouldn't, but the ones that were present in the room, if it's a laboratory or stadium or whatever, which they would show it. They would go around and show it. I mean, they'd make a show of it, just like they did with the atomic bomb. Then everyone would be like, wow, I actually saw it. So there'd be witnesses to see this apple completely vanish and then reappear. Then we would go on to do more, and other objects, and eventually people. And a person would be disassimilated into pretty much nothing and then reassimilated. And that would be used for astro projection. We'd be able to travel through the universe long distances instantaneously. Thank you. And when I say astro projection, I mean ASTRO, space projection. Get it? All right, it's a form of travel, like real travel, not a spirit. Well, I don't want to talk about the spirit because I believe in intelligent design, but I'm not talking about psychic phenomenon. I'm talking about real physics, and I'm talking about something that happens every day. Okay, so you have it balanced on 4 square, right? Just like that. 4 square is part of it. Now, you want it to be flat. So this is flat, plain. You know, like this. And it expands, pushes it in there. Do that too. That'll sometimes get kind of blah, blah, blah. Good right there. Now for the next one. Great thing right here. Now for memory. Right here. See that? 703 or 7023 1.5. That was the Fort Worth Administration building brought to you by Cole Spivey from the Please Subscribe show, which I'm the host. We're going to see if there's go-karts coming up. And also, just to let you know, we'll be looking at the skyline of Fort Worth for a slight second. And 26 millimeter with a 3-point zoom. And we'll also look at go-karts. So let me pan and we'll get started. There's the skyline. River, Trinity. And you guessed it. No go-karts. So in this new theory, NE equals dm cubed times the speed of light squared. We'll be able to open existence, and just like a tunnel, we would travel miles and miles away in a matter of an instant. We would just reappear on another planet. Just like Star Trek. Star Trek thought of it, right? So everyone laughed whenever they watched the man that landed on the moon. Well, it wasn't a cartoon. It was a black and white. You know, the man on the moon, whatever. It's a black and white silent film. Well, anyway, they laughed, and then it happened, you know. But there was no space creatures that we could see. You know, there was no extraterrestrial that we could really see at that moment when we landed. Armstrong, you know, landed and said, "This is one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind," as he leaped through time and space and hardly any gravity, or less gravity. There's still gravity, but it wasn't as much. And everyone cheered. So anyway, when this thing happens, it'll be a really big deal. It'll be like a real magic show. It'll be physics and magic, almost. There we go. All right, 726.4, 1.3.